Okay, I'd like to call the meeting to order. If everybody will please rise for the pledge. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to our September action meeting. Mr. Sugars, would you take roll, please?
Mr. Goodwin,
Here.
Mrs. Judge,
Here.
Mrs. Matlack,
Here.
Mrs. Seidel,
Here.
Mrs. Scarpolino,
Here.
Mrs. Schultz,
Here.
Mr. Tomlinson, Dr. Wong,
Here.
Dr. Dickinson.
Here. All right, our first order of business is the approval of the minutes. For this session, we have the regular action meeting dated August 28th, 2018, the board work session and special action meeting dated August 14th, 2018, and the executive sessions dated August 14th, 2018, and August 28th, 2018. Are there any errors, omissions, additions?
Yes. The August 14th minutes were not posted, so they couldn't be reviewed by the board. So we're just going to vote on August 28th tonight.
Okay, strike the 14th. Any other errors, additions? All right, do we have a motion to adopt? Mrs. Judge, Mrs. Matlack, Mrs. Sugars.
Mr. Goodwin,
Abstaining, I was absent from the August 28th meeting.
Mrs. Judge,
Yes.
Mrs. Matlack,
Yes.
Mrs. Seidel,
Yes.
Mrs. Scarpolino,
Yes.
Mrs. Schultz,
Yes.
Dr. Wong,
Yes.
Dr. Dickinson.
Yes to all. All right, I'll turn the mic over to Dr. Malash for a presentation this evening.
Thank you, Dr. Dickinson. I'm always very excited in September when we get a chance to welcome some of our new staff who are able to come out and join us at this meeting. So I'd like to invite Mrs. Wilson and Mrs. Wethington to join me up by the podium, and we're going to introduce new staff. New staff members, as your name is called, if you would approach the podium, we have a pin for you. We're going to shake hands, and after you receive your pin and we shake hands, you're going to come around and shake hands with all the board members and all the folks over at the side table as well.
And I will add, after that, I would invite you to come to the lobby. We'll get a group picture. You can take any other pictures you like. You're welcome to come back to the meeting. You're not required to, so whatever you choose to do will be great. So this is going in relative alphabetical order. Maria Alpazar. Alana Annunziato. Angelina Antonucci. Anthony Bellina. Theodore Beatty. Lynn Becker. Amanda Brandt. Lillian Braxton. Catherine Brown. Wayne Davis, Sandra De Jesus, Aaron Edwards, Suzanne Elsheriff, Amanda Farrell. Christine Farrow, Darlene Fleming. Also Fallon Fleming, Kendall Foken, Rebecca Forrest. Desiree Garner, Paul Garrity, Daniel Golenda. James Gordon, Marlon Guerra, Marie Hayes, Melissa Hernandez, Deanna Herman, Jocelyn Johnson, Isabella Kazarowski, Carly Kiesler, Daniel Kleehammer, Leanna Lennon, Karen Levin, Dana Levy, Mark Lopez, Kelvin Lopez Nieves, Emily Mahler, Greg McCarty, Caitlin McCloskey, Jacqueline McComb, Lindsay McCusker, Sharon McGrath, Jamie McGonigal, Stephanie Mirmina, Celeste Monk, Laura Monte, Melanie Omega, Kevin Orval, Donna Park, Emily Peterson, Kim Pike, Zhuang Qiu, Sean Redmond. Megan Sanders, Jeff Schofield, Allison Schwartz, Scott Shaw, Randy Smith, Laura Sutter, Danielle Takis, Jacqueline Weissman, Lisa Woolston, John Yoon, and Kelly Rogers. Is there a Kelly Rogers? No, that's it? Anybody else? No? Did I miss anybody? No? All right, we'll go take pictures.
Okay. Next up is our board representative reports. So I guess we'll start with. I'm sorry. You guys get a break. We'll do correspondence first, and I know Mrs. Judge has a few items for us.
Thank you. I don't mean to interrupt, but I just want to report, I guess. So I have a couple of things to report on for the Board of Education. Regarding the School Boards Association Legislative Committee that I am on, I was unable to attend the meeting on Saturday, September 15th, due to a funeral that I had to go to in Pennsylvania, but I did hear the following that was discussed at that meeting that morning. The recess bill requiring 20 minutes of recess for K through 5 has been delayed a year. The depression screening bill, which is A 3926, has multiple questions and concerns, especially regarding costs to local districts and liability and validity of screening protocols. There is a likelihood of a statewide task force to make recommendations before screening is implemented on this. One other bill that was discussed was A 3674 that requires municipalities and boards of eds to record public meetings and post them on the web. We already do this. But one of the bill's requirements is that executive session meetings also be recorded, and as we know that there's definite logistical problems with that portion of the bill. So that is being discussed anyway. And park changes were also discussed. There was so much discussed on the minutes that I just said it's been in the, we all know that's up in the air. So, any questions on that portion? This is awful. But anyway, I have this debris trail. So my next meeting that I attended was, I met with Senator Jim Beach along with Jonathan Pushman from school boards, and I was invited to that because I'm on the legislative committee with school boards. So it was Jonathan Pushman from school boards, myself, Senator Beach, and Ivy Rovner, who is Senator Beach's chief of staff. Jonathan Pushman from school boards did the majority of the talking. He mentioned Park, he mentioned the school employee health benefit plan and the cost of that and the increase every year. Mentioned Chapter 78, talked about SFRA in warp fast speed because we had about 20-25 minutes. So it was a quick meeting. The only thing about that I was able to say local to Cherry Hill was thank you for the additional state funding. And his response was say thank you to Senator Sweeney, which I will next time I see him. So it was a very quick meeting, but again, I'm always happy to make eye contact and build relationships with our state representatives. The next thing I wanted to report out was this past Thursday morning, September 20th, at Carusi School last Thursday morning. Mrs. Matlack and I were able to represent the Board of Ed at the Carusi Back to School breakfast event. It was sponsored by the North American Dairy Association in Aramark, and we met Sierra, and I meant to look up her last name and I didn't. Eaches. Sierra Eaches, who is the South New Jersey Dairy Princess. And she's a freshman in college. She gets up every day at 5:30 every morning, and she's a fifth-generation dairy farmer in New Jersey. Really interesting young ladies to talk to. And also attending this event was Jason Avant, who's a former Philadelphia Eagle who retired in 2016. He also lives local to South Jersey, and he's also a Michigan alumni. So I was all over that. So he was very funny, very, very funny. He was promoting, at this breakfast, he was promoting the importance of a nutritious breakfast and to exercise daily. It was a very fun morning. There was a lot of pictures on Twitter and on Carusi's website, I believe, but I saw a lot of it on Twitter. And it was just a lot of fun. It was really pretty special. Do you want to add anything?
The only thing I want to add is there was an assembly that they both of them did with the entire school, and Jason got up and he said, "Is there anybody here who thinks they can beat me in a race?" Well, so many hands went up. Everybody wanted to race him, so he chose a student to race him, and of course he won, but that kid was fast. So it was impressive, and everybody seemed to really like that. I think that if he had let them, they would have lined up to take turns racing him.
I actually got a picture of that, and all the kids are blurry except for the two runners. It was really funny, but I did get a decent picture of that. Yeah, it was a really fun morning. This is the kind of stuff that I love being a board member to represent the board at. They're special events. Yesterday morning, September 24th, Mrs. Malik and I again yesterday morning went over to Horace Mann to represent the board for the banner unveiling for the joint partnership with the Rowan University Professional Development School Network. This is the first collaboration with the Cherry Hill School, but the 10th collaboration of a school district overall. We met Dean Monica Sheely, Dr. Shilpa DeVay, and Stacy Leftwich from Rowan. They all spoke to the third, fourth. It was supposed to be an outside event. So it was inside because of the weather. So it was for third, fourth, and fifth graders. Some of the students read a poem. Some performed a song. Some performed with instruments a song. And the entire room of students sang a song that they hoped to memorize throughout the rest of the year. They thought they did a pretty good job. It was several verses, and they did a pretty good job. So this was another fun event to attend yesterday morning. I don't know if you want to add anything. So that was great. And my last thing to report on is the 18-19 meeting season starts for Garden State Coalition of Schools. So I'll be attending that tomorrow afternoon. And the guest speaker, and I'll pronounce his name right this time, it'll be Senate Minority Leader Tom Kane. So I'll report on what he had to say at our next action meeting in October. So any questions? Seeing none, back to you, Dr. Dickinson. Thank you, and I apologize for interrupting before the kids, but thank you.
Not a problem. Any other correspondence? Mrs. Matlack.
Just very briefly, this morning was the District Cultural Proficiency, Character Education, and Equity Committee, and I'm the board representative to that committee, and Mrs. Judge joined me this morning. We had 9 students from the Latinos at West Club join us this morning. They were brought over by their world language teacher, Alejandra Rivas Mintz, and they're going to be touring 5 of the schools in the district this year, presenting songs and dance representative of the Hispanic culture. And the students today, during our committee meeting, participated in our small group discussions that were led by Barbara Moore-Williams, who is the consultant for our district's work in this cultural proficiency area. And it's always great. We don't always have the kids at these meetings because they are in school, and the meetings usually run about 2 hours. But when they do have the opportunity to come and they can join us, it's wonderful to have them. Their insight and their the things that they express to us are invaluable to the work that the committee is doing. So if any of you have a chance to come, I can let you know when the meetings are, and if you have a chance, and can just come by to even just one of the meetings, just let me know. The more the merrier for that work. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other correspondence? None? Okay. Well, thank you both for representing the district. You always do such a fine job. All right, now we'll do our high school reports. So I guess we'll start off with Julia from East.
Good evening, esteemed members of the Board of Education. Although we have only had 12 days of school since the start of this year, activity at East has already picked up to its regular pace. Since the first event since I last spoke with you was freshman orientation, which provided the incoming class of 2022 the opportunity to meet teachers, administrators, and upperclassmen, to hear about life as a high school student, and to ask any questions they had regarding the transition to high school. Rather than assigning lockers to every incoming student, East provided this year's freshmen the opportunity to choose whether or not they would get a locker, due to the decline in the use of lockers at East. Each student walked away with their first piece of East apparel, a free Class of 2022 t-shirt provided by the Cherry Hill Education Foundation. All students arrived at East for the first day of school on September 5th, where they had the opportunity to attend all 8 of their classes and meet all of their teachers for the upcoming year. Starting on the first day, East implemented a new Flex Homeroom component to the daily schedule, allowing students to choose from a list of homeroom options each day, including quiet study rooms, subject-specific extra help rooms, open gym, and music lessons. In the past, there was an issue with students regularly skipping homeroom, but the Flex Homeroom option gives students the opportunity to utilize their time during the lunch breaks to their advantage while still maintaining structure and accountability for the large student population. East parents also had the opportunity to get acquainted to the new school year. Back to school night took place on the 13th, giving parents the opportunity to walk the halls of East as they made their way to each of their children's classrooms and met their teachers. It may only be the first full week of school this week, but East students are already busy with their fall activities. The fall sports season is in full swing, with teams including cross-country, field hockey, football, and soccer practicing and competing regularly. All of our teams have been working hard, and it has shown in the great success they've seen in the season so far. The theater department has started rehearsals for the lab theater production titled Crimson Theater, the first show of the school year, which will take place next month. And the Student Government Association has been planning their first school event for the year, Festival E, a fall festival with games, food, and live music performed by East students, which will take place this Friday at 7 p.m. Thank you for giving me the time to share this update with you. Are there any questions? Thank you.
Thank you, Julia. Next up, Sonia from West.
Good evening, everybody. Here's athletic news. On behalf of the entire West community, I would like to extend a congratulations to all of West's fall sports teams on their excellent performances this fall season. The football team has won all 3 of their season matches to date, defeating Pennsauken, Mainland Regional, and Seneca. The boys soccer team opened their season with a 7-0 win against Winslow Township, and their season to date consists of 5 wins, 2 losses, and a draw against Seneca. The girls' volleyball varsity team is currently enjoying a 4-2 record, and the junior varsity team secured 2 victories of their own in recent games. And also a shout out to the cross-country teams for running a successful Hawaiian-themed water stop at the Rock and Roll Half Marathon in Philadelphia on September 16th. In performing arts news, the West vocal and instrumental music departments are working hard on pieces that will be showcased at a combined winter concert on the night of Thursday, December 13th. And program ads are being sold for the concert, and all funds raised will go to the West Music Boosters program. And tickets are now on sale for the West Theater Department's fall musical, Newsies. The 4 show dates for the production are Friday, October 26th at 7 p.m., Saturday, October 27th at 2 p.m. and at 7 p.m., and on Sunday, October 28th at 2 p.m. Tickets can be purchased online at showtixforyou.com. And West's 2018-2019 theater season will also feature a play titled Almost Maine, which goes up in January, a lab theater production titled 110 Stories, which goes up in February, and a spring musical titled Chicago, which goes up in March. In extracurricular news, the West newspaper publication, The Lions Roar, is recruiting writers, artists, and photographers to help create content for the website and print editions. For more information, please see Mrs. Riley. Also, the Police Club will be holding monthly meetings during the lunch periods, where students can discuss all things law enforcement with the campus police and their guests. And for more information, please contact Officer Joe Baldessare. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good reports. And I'm going to embarrass you because you did an excellent job in the chorus line over the summertime. Which mile did you guys do at the race on Sunday? Do you know? Yeah. The watering at that half marathon. Okay. It must have been pretty far along because I actually ran in the race and I don't remember seeing you guys. So I was going to say it must have been after mile 10. Thank you very much, both of you. All right, we'll have our first public discussion at this moment. Your comments must be regarding items on the action agenda. When you come to the mic, please state your name, address, and the item to which you are speaking. You'll have 3 minutes for your remarks. Please note the green light will turn yellow when you have 30 seconds remaining. The light will turn red when your 3 minutes are up. Anything on the agenda tonight? No? Okay. All right, before I turn it over to Dr. Malash, I want to recognize the candidates for the upcoming Board of Education election. Whoever's here, if you would please stand. Benjamin Shore. I'll read your names. I think it's better to have your name associated with your face. Sorry. Rosie Arroyo. Sally Tong.
She'll be here.
She's on her way.
Lori Neary. Now David Rossi. Sanjay Sharma. Brunya Pillay. Frederick Donde. Barry Dickinson. Ken Tomlinson is an incumbent who is not with us this evening, and Kathy Judge. Okay, good luck to everybody. Now I'll turn it over to Dr. Malash.
Thank you, Dr. Dickinson, and good evening, everyone. Ladies, thank you for your great reports. You've already hit mid-year stride in terms of reporting out on what's going on, so well done. I appreciate that. Very exciting and a very successful opening of the school year. And again, in some ways, because I would like to talk about what's upcoming and the dates and the days. Today was the 12th day of school. the 12th day of school, even though it's September 25th. It seems like we are in such a routine and moving forward, but it's only been 12 days. The kids at the high school are literally just going to complete their second cycle of classes tomorrow. Tomorrow's day 6 at the high school. But everything is already up and running. It's been very exciting for me to have the opportunity to be out and to visit all 19 of our schools, to be in classrooms, to talk to students, to see the teachers, to see staff, to be at events in the evening and on the weekends as well, as there's been a lot of welcome back activities that have gone on. So a very successful start. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time because very exciting presentation to do this evening, but there are a couple of things that I do want to highlight. Earlier, somebody referred to, we are in the midst of Hispanic Heritage Month, and there are tours that will be taking place. You talked about the kids, Latinos at West, will be out and touring at schools, and Latinos and Amigos at East will also be they're doing their first tour this year into some of the schools. On Saturday, October 13th, there'll be a Hispanic Heritage Month celebration at Carusi Middle School, which will be a combination of the student groups and the Cherry Hill Hispanic Civic Association. We'll be doing that on Saturday, October 13th. So I hope to see everybody come out on the 13th at Carusi. Additional details will be coming out through our electronic postings and information. And we'll be able to talk about and celebrate that's going to happen the day after Volley for Support. So Volley for Support is Friday, October the 12th. Please join us at High School East. It truly is the event that involves every school and every group in the district. It's a fundraiser that's run every year by CHEA, so please make plans to be at High School East on Friday, October the 12th. It's a great fundraiser that goes on, so we look forward to seeing folks out there. I'm excited because there are a number of us who will be spending part of the end of next week and next weekend in Washington, D.C. At the National Forum for Character Education. We are being recognized as one of 5 districts in the country to be designated a National District of Character. We also have schools that will be recognized as National Schools of Character. We'll have the opportunity to sit, Dr. Rickensrud and I will be sitting on a keynote panel. We're doing a presentation as well about our journey as a school district and a community to receive this recognition. So I'm incredibly excited to be down there and to bring back the story of what has gone on and what we have done. A little way of celebration, tomorrow is Character Ed Day, September 26th. There are activities that are going on in all of our schools tomorrow. After we receive the recognition in D.C. next weekend, we will plan a special event that will be district-wide here back in Cherry Hill. Also, because we're almost to the end of September, September is Library Card Sign-Up Month. If you have not been up to Cherry Hill Library to get your library card, get to Cherry Hill Library. There's special gift bags if you sign up for a new library card at Cherry Hill Library. So I told Mrs. Mann that I would report out on that. One other thing I just want to talk a little bit about. A week ago, we sent an email out to all families in the district. So one of the ways that we use to communicate is through the Blackboard, which is an electronic feature that we use email addresses that we collect from parents through Genesis. We sent out information about a new special ed parent advisory group that we're forming in the school district. So just want to talk a little bit about the background of that, what we're doing, what we're looking for, and where we are going. So this flyer was sent out. It was emailed out to parents of our 11,000 plus children in the district. And on Friday of last week, we also mailed this flyer and a cover letter home to parents of any children that have an IEP or a 504, both children who are in district and those children who are in out-of-district placements. So the question has come a couple of times in the last week, why is the district forming a special ed parent advisory group? So recently we were asked to take a look at the Special Ed Parent Advisory Group and how we were operating here within the school district. So when the question came out about whether or not we were following statute and statutory requirement, because for a number of years, we have used the Cherry Hill Special Education PTA has served as the Special Ed Parent Advisory Group. When the question came about whether or not we were following the statute, we go through with our attorneys, we review the statute, and we realize we're probably not following the guidelines by using Cherry Hill Special Ed PTA. So in order to rectify and to follow the guidelines and actually to expand opportunity for folks to be involved, we are forming our own Special Ed Parent Advisory Group. So we've posted this flyer on our website. We've also posted a document that's provided by the Statewide Parent Advocacy Network, as well as the Department of Education, that goes through and goes into detail. It's a little more than, it's almost 50 pages long, but goes into a lot of detail about what CPAGs or Special Ed Parent Advisory Groups are, talks about what they are for, and how they should operate within a school district. So there's a lot of information that is on there. I believe it's a tremendous opportunity, again, to involve more folks. So we're looking for parent representatives from all 19 of our schools. We're looking for parent representatives from our out-of-district placements. We're looking for parent representatives of children that have 504s. And we're looking to have our first meeting sometime probably towards the end of October. Mrs. Wethington, next Friday, we've asked people to respond if they are interested, the 12th. So 2 weeks from Friday. If people are interested, we're asking them to submit information. There's a Google form that can be found online. It's on the website. It's also linked through all of the district schools' websites as well. So that's there. That does not do away with special ed PTA, right? Special ed PTA is a PTA. We believe in the value of PTA. We believe in being involved in PTA. And if you've been to back to school nights, the presentation that we do about the referendum, the mailings that we send out, we always encourage people to be involved in PTA. The more people that are involved, the more voices that can be heard, the better that we can do as a school district and as a community. So that's there. If folks have questions, they can always contact us to ask those questions. I know in the contact that went out both electronically and the letter that was mailed home, there's a special email address if you have a question specifically about the Special Ed Parent Advisory Group. We are almost, and one last thing, we're almost to the end of back to school nights. Our back to school nights finish up on Thursday of this week. So tomorrow night is half of our elementary schools, and Thursday night is the other half of the elementary schools. So again, if you don't have the opportunity to get to back to school night, please make sure you follow up. Please contact your child's teacher, and please stay in regular contact with what is going on. All right? All right?
Okay, thank you, Dr. Malash. We'll now move into our action agenda. Mrs. Seidel, would you please move C&I, please?
I sure will. Thank you, Dr. Dickinson. The superintendent recommends and I move the following. Number 1, approval of attendance at conferences and workshops for the 2018-2019 school year. Number 2, approval of the fiscal impact of the professional development plan. Number 3, resolution approving a professional services agreement. Number 4, approval of out-of-district student placements for the 2018-2019 school year. And number 5, approval of services contract with New Jersey Commission for the Blind and Visually Impaired for the 2018-2019 school year. Do I have a second? Mrs. Judge, any questions or discussion? Okay, seeing none, Mrs. Sugars.
Mrs. Seidel,
Yes to all?
Mr. Goodwin,
Yes.
Mrs. Judge,
Yes to all.
Mrs. Matlack,
Yes.
Mrs. Scarpellino,
Yes to all.
Mrs. Schultz,
Yes.
Dr. Wong,
Yes.
Dr. Dickinson.
Yes to all. All right, in Mr. Tomlinson's absence, I'll move the B&F agenda. The superintendent recommends, and I move the following. Number 1, financial reports. Number 2, resolutions. Number 3, resolution of the Board of Education of the Township of Cherry Hill in the County of Camden, New Jersey, authorizing certain actions in connection with a proposed bond referendum. Number 4, resolution for the award of transportation. Number 5, award of non-public school security and technology plans. And number 6, resolution for the award of change orders. Do I have a second? Mrs. Judge. Any questions? Questions? Seeing none, Mrs. Sugars.
Dr. Dickinson,
Yes to all.
Mr. Goodwin,
Yes.
Mrs. Judge,
Yes to all.
Mrs. Matlack,
Yes to all.
Mrs. Seidel,
I need to abstain with respect to CDW on the bill list. Yes to the remainder.
Mrs. Scarpellino,
Yes to all.
Mrs. Schultz,
Yes to all.
Dr. Wong.
Yes.
Mrs. Judge, would you move HR, please?
Yes, I will, Dr. Dickinson. The superintendent recommends and I move the following. Number 1, termination of employment certificated. Number 2, termination of employment non-certificated. Number 3, appointment certificated. Number 4, appointments non-certificated. Number 5, leaves of absence certificated. Number 6, leaves of absence non-certificated. Number 7, assignment salary change non-certificated. Number 8, other compensation certificated. Number 9, other compensation, non-certificated. Number 10, other motions. Number 11, abolishment of job description. Number 12, approval of revised job descriptions. Number 13, other motions. And number 14, ratification of campus police contract. I'd like to note that we have pink sheets adding to numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 7, and 8 on our agenda. Do I have a second? Mrs. Seidel. Any questions? Seeing none, Mrs. Sugars.
Mrs. Judge,
Yes to all.
Mr. Goodwin,
Yes.
Mrs. Matlack,
Yes to all.
Mrs. Seidel,
Yes.
Mrs. Scarpellino,
Yes to all.
Mrs. Schultz,
Yes.
Dr. Wong,
I abstaining from item 3 regarding Rowan University. Yes to the rest.
Dr. Dickinson.
Yes to all. Mrs. Scarpellino, would you move P&L, please?
Certainly, as soon as I get to it. The superintendent recommends, and I move the following. Number 1, a second reading of policies and regulations. Number 2, resolution for recognition of Week of Respect. And number 3, resolution for recognition of School Violence Week, Awareness Week. Do I have a second? Mr. Goodwin, are there any questions? Seeing none, Mrs. Sugars.
Mrs. Scarpellino,
Yes.
Mr. Goodwin,
Yes.
Mrs. Judge,
Yes to all.
Mrs. Matlack,
Yes.
Mrs. Seidel,
Yes.
Mrs. Schultz,
Yes.
Dr. Wong,
Yes.
Dr. Dickinson.
Yes to all. All right. For strategic planning, we have no items this evening, but we do have a presentation.
We do. Thank you, Dr. Dickinson. I just want to do a little introduction as Mrs. Sugars gets set to go. So I am incredibly excited, although we are a little bit delayed in doing this presentation on the bond referendum. About 10 minutes ago, the board established the date for our bond referendum as Tuesday, December the 11th. So congratulations to the board and to the community that we have made it this far. We've been waiting on this presentation for quite some time, and it has been a journey. Mrs. Sugars will tell you she's been here now for almost 27 months, and this discussion has been intimate in what she has done since the time that she arrived. But the work that has led us to this evening in terms of preparing for a bond this December actually began a couple of decades ago when the last bond referendum was adopted in 1999. This discussion is not new in Cherry Hill. There's been very formal discussions over the course of the last 18 years. You've heard me over the course of the last year reference a number of times the ad hoc building committee that 10 years ago got up and did a presentation about the work that needed to be done within the school district. This is a credit, I think, to the folks in the school district as well as in the community who over the course of the last 2 years have participated in a lot of discussions, have weighed in about work that needs to be done, and that have helped us to reach where we are this evening. The presentation that Mrs. Sugars and Mr. Middleton's here, many of you know Mr. Middleton, Mr. Beska is here as well, most of you know Mr. Besica. The presentation that they are doing this evening will be posted on the district website beginning tomorrow. So the information that is shared up here will be on the district website. As we have announced, we're going to have a special board meeting on Tuesday, October the 2nd, which is 1 week from tonight. And it will be at that board meeting that we will ask the board to formally adopt the 3 referenda questions that we will put out to the community on Tuesday, December the 11th. After the October 2nd board meeting, we'll have a published update calendar of events as we'll do community meetings and discussions to be able to talk about the referendum and address questions that folks may have. So take your time. Board members, you have a folder that has information within it that Mrs. Sugars and Mr. Middleton will refer to, and we will slide out of the way. Mrs. Sugars, you ready?
I'm ready.
All right.
I feel like this is like my wedding day or something. It's like we've been talking about this for so long. It's finally here. So we're going to start talking about what's going on at each of the schools. When John and I did this presentation back in March, right. We had kind of broken up the presentation by school, and at that point we were talking about 2 questions. Tonight we're actually going to talk about 3 questions. So the format of this will look very similar. and we'll be able to get through these pretty quickly. It's a very lengthy presentation, but you'll see a lot of similarities, particularly at the elementary schools, of what is in the different questions. So we're going to start with Barclay. In question 1, we have some exterior wall repairs. We have already done the security enhancements that we'll be doing at the other schools at Barclay. We've already put the security vestibule in. We've already done the cameras and the swipe card access and some other things. So that's not included in question 1 for Barclay. In question 2, we have classroom toilet room renovations, our HVAC replacement, domestic water piping replacement, and then what you'll see on a consistent basis in most of the schools is corridor ceiling replacements, including lighting. If you've been in our buildings, you know that they need to be brightened up, whether it's the spacing of the lighting or what have you. You know, we definitely need to brighten up our hallways. So that's pretty consistent among all of the schools. In question 3 at Barclay, we have curbs, sidewalks, and paving, storm drainage, site utility improvements, a parking expansion at Barclay. As you know, we have our very little ones there, so a lot of times we have parents dropping them off. We just need some additional parking there. And then building accessibility improvements. Is there anything you want to add, John?
No, that's essentially it.
Okay. So this is what Barclay looks like right now. And if you look at this, these are the areas in Barclay where we would be doing some of the improvements, the hallways, and then the classroom toilet repairs, among other things in that building. Move on to Barton. Barton, we are doing, in question 1, security vestibule, camera, swipe card access, and office reconfiguration. One of the goals through this referendum is to get our main offices by the front entrance. In some of our schools, a lot of our schools, you know, the main office is not by the front entrance. So this will get the offices by the main entrance where the security vestibule is. Also at Barton, we'd be looking at some partial roof replacements, exterior wall repairs, and then putting air conditioning into the existing all-purpose room cafeteria area. Currently, I don't think any of our elementary schools have. Just Woodcrest has HVAC in that area. So you know that if you've been this time of year, the end of the school year, it would be good to have an area where the kids can go during the day. So a lot of them are kind of, you know, boxes, hot boxes. So that's a focus for this referendum as well, to make sure that those areas get some air conditioning. Again, in question 2, classroom toilet room renovations, converting the current all-purpose room at Barton and Stage to a cafeteria area, and then constructing a multi-purpose room on the back. Again, corridors and lighting. And then question 3 for Barton, similar to Barclay, a lot of outside stuff, curbs, sidewalks, pavings, storm drainage, utility improvements, expanding some of the paving there, and then building accessibility improvements. Is there anything?
No,
okay.
that's it.
All right. So if we look at this as Barton now as it is configured, and with the additional multi-purpose room, this is what it would look like. The orange area there would be where we would do the security vestibule and the office modifications. We'd have the corridors and the changes that we would make to the current all-purpose room cafeteria area. Moving on to Cooper, again, security in question 1, office reconfiguration, partial roof replacement at this building, exterior wall repairs, and then the HVAC at the existing all-purpose room cafeteria area. In question 2 for Cooper, we would be looking at classroom toilet room renovations, public toilet room renovations, partial HVAC replacement, domestic water piping replacement. John, do you want to talk about that a little bit and just kind of explain what that is?
Yeah, a lot of the domestic water systems in the buildings are outdated, so we're catching up on some of the repairs. In addition, we're going to be doing some crawl space repairs here structurally, so we need to move the domestic water out of the crawl space. So the domestic water and the plumbing replacements that are referred to on these 2 items are all related to crawl space work, so it'll assist the structural repairs in the crawl space.
For question 3 at Cooper, again, we put the corridor ceiling replacement in question 3 for Cooper, partial curbs, sidewalks, and paving there. We have lots of parking there, so no need to do an expansion, and then building accessibility. So this is Cooper now, and this is what Cooper would look like with the modifications. Moving on to Brett Hart, again, question 1, security enhancements, office reconfiguration. We actually will need to build a new main office at Hart. If you've been to Hart, you know right now that the main office is actually across a major hallway there, right near the all-purpose room in the front. There's really no way to put a security vestibule and a main office in the front there without doing some new construction. So literally in the front of that building, we'll be doing some additional construction there. Partial roof replacement, exterior wall repairs, and again, the air conditioning in the existing APR and cafeteria. For question 2, we would take that current office area and reconfigure it into some small group instruction rooms there that were desperately needed in that building. Classroom toilet room renovations, public room renovations, corridors again, and then in question 3, curb, sidewalks, and building accessibility improvements. So Brett Hart now looks like this, and with the additions, you can see the additional office space there and some of the other changes that we would be making. Moving on to Johnson. Again, security enhancements, office reconfiguration. The office is fairly close to the main entrance, so that should be a fairly easy fix. Partial roof replacement, exterior wall repairs, converting the APR and stage to a cafeteria, and constructing a multi-purpose room. Johnson is the only school that has this in the first question because it is the smallest APR in the district. It has no windows. Again, one of those hot boxes, if you've ever been there on a warm June or September day, you can understand why this was a priority for us. So that actually was in question 1 while the other ones are in question 2. Question 2, small group instruction rooms, classroom toilet room renovations, public room toilet room renovations, and some electrical service upgrades. Question 3 has the corridor, ceiling replacements, partial curbs, sidewalks and paving, storm drainage, and building accessibility. So for Johnson, this is what it looks like now. And this is what it would look like with the additional multi-purpose room built onto the back. For Joyce Kilmer, in question 1, we have the security enhancements and the office reconfiguration. Again, the main office is fairly close to the entrance, so that should be a fairly easy fix. Partial roof replacements, exterior wall repairs, and then HVAC in the APR and cafeteria. Classroom toilet room renovations, public toilet room renovations, corridor ceilings, and then curbs, sidewalks, paving, and building accessibility at Kilmer. This is what it looks like now, and this is where the changes would be. Moving on to Kingston, question 1, security vestibule, camera swipe card access, office reconfiguration, roof replacement, exterior wall repairs, and then HVAC in the existing cafeteria. Question 2, small group instruction, classroom toilet room renovations, public toilet room renovations, converting the APR and stage to a cafeteria, constructing an additional multi-purpose room on the back, partial HVAC replacement, electrical service upgrades, and corridor ceilings. And then in question 3, in this building again, some expansion of parking. Kingston has very little parking over there, in addition to curbs, sidewalks, storm drainage, building accessibility. So this is Kingston now, and this is what Kingston would look like with the addition. For Russell Knight, again, question 1, security, office reconfiguration. This is another tricky one because if you've been in Russell Knight, you have a stairwell on one side and the APR on the other side. So office reconfiguration that will involve new construction, partial roof replacement, existing wall repairs, HVAC in the cafeteria, the existing cafeteria. For question 2, small group instruction, classroom toilet room renovations, toilet room upgrades, convert the APR and stage to a cafeteria, add a multi-purpose room on the back, electrical service upgrades, corridor ceiling replacements. In question 3, we have some HVAC replacements, curb, sidewalks, and paving, storm drainage, site utilities, expanding parking here as well. There's not a whole lot of parking at Russell Knight, and building accessibility improvements. Anything to add there, John? No. Okay. So this is Russell Knight as it looks now, and this is what it would look like with the additional multi-purpose room and changes in the front. You can see there the orange area would be where the new security vestibule office area would be. Horace Mann, again, question 1, security, office reconfiguration, roof replacement, exterior wall repairs, and HVAC in the cafeteria. In question 2 for Mann, we would have small group instruction, classroom toilet room renovations, conversion of the APR and stage 2 a cafeteria, construct an additional multi-purpose room on the back, electrical service upgrades, including a generator, domestic water piping replacement, corridor ceiling replacements, including lighting. Question 3 has partial HVAC replacement in it, partial curb, sidewalk and paving, storm drainage, and a parking expansion, because Mann is probably the worst one in the district in terms of how much parking they have, and building accessibility improvements. So this is Mann now, and this is what Mann would look like with the addition. Thomas Paine, as you know, we are moving ahead with the security enhancement at Thomas Paine currently. We expect that to be out to bid soon,
Yes.
shortly. So we don't have security enhancements in the question for Thomas Paine. Exterior wall repairs and HVAC for the cafeteria at question 1. For questions 2, small group instruction rooms, classroom toilet room renovations, public toilet room renovations, electrical service upgrades, corridor ceiling, and then curb, sidewalk, and paving, storm drainage, and parking expansion for Paine. So this is Paine now, and this is the areas that would be renovated at Paine. For Sharp, again, in question 1, security, office reconfiguration, exterior wall repairs, and HVAC in the existing cafeteria. In question 2, small group instruction, classroom toilet room renovations, public toilet room renovations, converting the current APR to a cafeteria, constructing the multi-purpose room, electrical service upgrades, including a generator, domestic water piping, corridor ceiling replacements, including lighting. In question 3 for Sharp, we have some additional HVAC replacement, curbs, sidewalks, drainage, building accessibility. So this is Sharp now. And this is Sharp with the addition on the back and this other renovations. Stockton. This is another tricky one if you've been in Stockton. Again, it's a building that has a main office across a major highway there in the front. So security, vestibule cameras, and swipe card. This would also have additional, similar to Hart, construction of a new main office out front of the building. Partial roof replacement, exterior wall repairs, and HVAC in the cafeteria. In question 2, we would have small group instruction rooms, toilet room renovations, public toilet room upgrades, corridor ceiling replacements, and in question 3, building accessibility improvements. This is what Stockton looks like now, and this is what Stockton would look like with the renovations. Anything else?
No.
Okay. Woodcrest, this is another school similar to Paine. We have taken the security measures out of this, out of the referendum. We're working on them right now. So in question 1 for Woodcrest, we would have a roof replacement and exterior wall repairs. In question 2, we would have small group instruction rooms, classroom toilet room renovations, electrical service upgrades with new generators, corridor ceiling replacements and lighting, and in question 3, partial HVAC replacement. So this is what it looks like now. And this is where the renovations would be. So that's the end of the elementaries. If we move on to the middle schools, we start with Beck. At Beck Middle School, again, security enhancements, office reconfiguration, roof replacements, wall repairs, and HVAC replacement in the cafeteria. For question 2, public toilet rooms, corridor ceiling replacements, and in question 3, all of the outside site work, and also in question 3, locker room renovations, including the toilet rooms. So this is Beck as it is now, and this is Beck with the renovations. For Carusi, again, question 1, security enhancements, office reconfiguration, exterior wall repairs, and asbestos abatement. Throughout all of the questions at Carusi, you'll see there is some major asbestos abatement that would be done. And this is mainly because of the amount of asbestos that's in that building. And I'll let John talk about that a little bit.
Well, it's fairly prevalent throughout the building. It's in the ceiling, it's in the floors, and in the usual places where we find it in pipe insulation. But Carusi's been hamstrung with being able to do renovations because of the presence of the asbestos, particularly in the ceiling. So the goal of this is to get it out of the school and allow us to make building improvements that are well overdue.
So in question 2, we would have a roof replacement, replace the fire detection and alarm systems, small group instruction rooms, partial HVAC replacement, electrical service upgrades, domestic water piping, corridor ceilings. Also at Carusi, we would have some temporary classroom units. This is because, the project is so big, and the amount of renovation that's going to have to be done, there is no way that we can do it over a summer. We'll do the abatement pieces over the summer when the buildings aren't occupied, but we'll do the reconstruction, while the school year is going on, because if we only did it in the summer, this project would take 10 years to do. So we have no choice but to do this work during the course of the school year as well. So we anticipate 6-8 approximately classroom units that will be stationed there probably for the length of the project. To
Actually,
be used.
There's 10. And
10.
We'll take blocks of classrooms offline, like Lynn was saying, during the course of the work. So they'll be closed for periods of the school year. We'll continue the renovations in those spaces and then rotate through the building to make use of the temporary classroom units continuously during the course of the renovations that are going to take place at Carusi.
So in question 3 for Carusi, locker room renovations, including toilet rooms, partial science lab renovations, HVAC replacement, curb, sidewalks and paving, building accessibility, and then gymnasium renovation. And I'll let John touch on that a little bit too.
Well, Carusi's gymnasium is a very difficult space. It may not look like it from the outside, but it's very inefficient because it's got a concrete plank roof with essentially no insulation. So we're going to do a major renovation on the gym to put a steel framed roof on it, proper insulation. It'll be a very nice space when it's all said and done.
So this is Carusi now. And this would be Carusi with the renovations. At Rosa, question 1, security enhancements, office reconfiguration. This is another one we're going to have to move the office, which is, if you've been in that building, is down the hallway, to a classroom area that's there right now, right near the main office there. So we'll have to change that into office space and then take the existing office area and change that into small group instruction. So moving the main office to near the entrance, partial roof replacement, exterior wall repairs. There's also a certain amount of asbestos abatement that needs to be done at Rosa as well. I'll let John talk about that.
Yeah, one difference here is Rosa's asbestos is in the walls. So there's a fair amount of work that we have to do to correct the wall construction to install new classroom doors. So that's the biggest part of the asbestos abatement at Rosa. So we'll be removing portions of the walls so we can upgrade the doors and hardware to all the classrooms.
So question 2, small group instruction rooms, domestic water piping replacement, cafeteria renovation and addition. This would add some additional classroom space and a new cafeteria. We would actually renovate the existing cafeteria, turn that into classroom space, and then add the cafeteria onto the back. Corridor ceiling replacements and partial HVAC replacement would be in question 2. In question 3, curb, sidewalks and paving, parking expansion, utility improvements, building accessibility. So this is what Rosa looks like now. And this is what Rosa would look like with the additions and the renovations.
So part of the renovations there are constructing music rooms in the existing cafeteria where it stands now. Right now, Carusi uses essentially a classroom similar to what they do Rosa uses classrooms similar to what they do in elementary school. So we'll be giving them larger rooms, and it'll be more appropriate for the middle school structure.
It'll also give them some storage. If you've ever been into their cafeteria, the back half of it is big drums and wrestling mats and, you know, things like that. So this will give them some storage in that area as well. Moving on to the high schools. High School East, we would do the security vestibule. As you know, we decided to take some of the additional state aid that we received this year and move ahead with the camera systems at East and the swipe card access piece. So we're working on that piece right now. So through the referendum, we'll finish those enhancements with the security vestibule and the office reconfiguration, exterior wall repairs. Question 2, partial roof replacement, partial HVAC replacement, electrical service upgrades, and we'll start the corridor ceiling replacements with lighting. Question 3, we have some additional corridor ceiling replacements, locker room renovations, including the toilet rooms, floor slab settlement corrections, auditorium improvements, and athletic facility improvements. And I'll let John talk about some of those issues that we have there.
So with the auditorium improvements, the renovations of the auditorium at High School East are long overdue. So it'll include house improvements to replace the seating and the wall finishes. The ceiling was done approximately 8 years ago, so that's in good shape. And then there'll be some minor renovations to the stage and the theatrical systems. As far as the athletic facility improvements go, the goal has been for a long time to get a functional stadium over at High School East. So it would be constructing a larger home side grandstand system as well as a press box, and the construction of that's going to displace the existing grounds building that's there. So it'll be construction of a new grounds building as well, and include accessible routes out to the stadium from the parking areas and driveways where they are now.
Can you talk about the floor slab settlement issue?
Yeah, floor slab settlement is a localized problem. We have encountered this at High School East previously, where the compaction of the soil underneath the floor slabs was not adequate, and it is settling. So it's drawing the floor slab down with it. Right now, the problem exists in about 4 classrooms back in F-Wing. Not a significant problem, but we want to head it off and resolve it. The way we addressed this previously, and the way we'll probably address this, is by a grout jacking system where we pump in high pressure grout underneath the floor slab, and it actually raises the floor slab up to the elevation that we need it to now. So that should be a pretty straightforward fix.
So this is East now, and this is East highlighting where some of the renovations would take place. Moving on to West. Again, at West, we're going to do the cameras and swipe card access now. So it will just be a matter of finishing those off with the security vestibule and the office reconfiguration. Partial roof replacement and exterior wall repairs will be in question 1. In question 2, partial HVAC replacements, electrical service upgrades including a generator, corridor ceiling replacements including lighting. In question 3, additional corridor ceiling replacements, partial HVAC replacement, curb, sidewalks, and pavings, storm drainage improvements, locker room renovations including toilet rooms, athletic facility improvements, and partial science lab renovations. Is there anything you want to add there?
No, that's essentially it.
Okay. So this is West now, and this is West with some of the renovations. So let's talk about kind of the process. So we had to submit our applications to the state, our long-awaited applications that we were hoping to receive early July. We actually received on August 16th. So our applications to the state were for just over $210 million. Eligible costs of that after they were approved were just over $190 million, or just over 90% of all of our requests were approved. We had a certain amount that was not eligible, and for the most part, the non-eligible costs would be the site improvements, paving, especially expansion of paving, and the athletic improvements would not have been something that the state would fund. So that amounted to just over $5 million, or 2.43% of the applications. And then we have the portion that was not funded because we have a certain amount of new construction in this project, the state funds new construction based on $143 per square foot, which John will tell you is ridiculous.
And that includes everything, site improvements and everything associated with the new construction. So it's a far cry of what reality is.
So in those $210 million worth of applications, new construction totaled $24,797,414. Only $9,504,926 of that is funded. So that shows you how little the state will fund. So, you know, we've heard a lot of, well, why don't you knock down a building and build a new one? Well, part of the problem with that is they don't fund new construction at the same level that they fund rehabilitation. So, obviously, if we were looking at building new buildings, we would be looking at a lot less funding. So, so that's just part of it. So overall, just our applications, $210 million, about just over 20 million was not funded or not eligible, 9.68%. So 90% of our projects are going to be funded by the state. So that's good news. And that aid comes in the form of debt service aid. So let's look at the breakdown. We just talked a lot about, you know, what it looks like at each school. When we look at the question breakdown, question 1 is mainly security upgrades, security entrances, building envelope, masonry, roofing, HVAC improvements, and then the multi-purpose room at Johnson. And that totaled $49,734,143. And the goal of question 1 was to make sure that it was tax neutral, right? So we have debt that's expiring this year. We're making the last payment on our last series of bonds. And so question 1 would replace that debt for just about the same amount, which we'll show you next. Question 2 is the larger question. Ceiling and lighting upgrades, electrical and domestic water upgrades, toilet room upgrades, small group instruction, HVAC, and then some of the additions that we're doing at Rosa and some of the elementary schools, and a lot of the work that we're doing at Carusi is in question 2, and that totaled $113,402,251. Question 3, I don't like to say they're nice to haves because I think all of this is stuff that we really need to do, but they are certainly things that we could, if we had to, live without. Science lab and gymnasium renovations, locker rooms, auditorium upgrades, science lab upgrades. The unfortunate thing is a lot of our paving and site improvements are in question 3. So, you know, it's still critical, still a critical piece of the referendum. And question 3 is $47,636,213. So the total for all 3 questions, $210,772,607. Tax impact, I know this is a little bit difficult to see. Board members, you actually have a copy of this in your folder. But essentially what this says is that we would be looking at a 20-year bond referendum. We would be looking at debt service aid funding in the amount of around 30% for each question. The average tax impact for the average assessed home would be about $71 for question 1. We are currently paying about $75, so there would actually be a small reduction by approving question 1 because we have that debt expiring and the new debt coming on. Question 1 and 2, again, over the 20 years, at about 30% funding from the state. On the average assessed home, question 2 would be about $162 in tax impact, and that would be an annual tax impact. And that would be above the $75 that we're, you know, currently paying. And then if all 3 questions are approved, again, 20-year bonds, about 30% funding from the state, we would be looking at about $232 a year for the average assessed home. So again, you know, this is a great time for us to be doing this because of the expiration of our debt. It's, again, long overdue. This bonds that are expiring, well, you know, was the last time a bond referendum was done. So in terms of timing, it's the perfect timing. In terms of need, obviously the need is there to do these projects in our buildings.
And just to clarify, the questions are set up progressively. So
right.
question 1 can float by its own. question 1 and 2 would be a package, question 1, 2, and 3 would be a package. So the only way to get question 3 is by voting for question 1 and 2 in addition to question 3.
Right, so it's not a matter of where question 3 could be approved, and we're not doing 1 and 2. It has to be progressive. So question 1 has to be approved, question 2 has to be approved to do question 3. So again, we passed a resolution this evening to move the election to December 11th. Polls would be open from 3 to 8 p.m. on that day. So we're asking everyone to please make sure they get the information that they need and go out and vote. We will have a board meeting next Tuesday night, October 2nd, 7 p.m. We've thrown a lot of information at you. You certainly need some time to look at it and digest it. We're going to ask you to do that this week and then come back next Tuesday where we can vote on the bond authorizing resolution for the referendum. You have a draft copy of that resolution in your packet as well. In addition, you have some breakdown of the PEC letters. You also have the breakdown of the questions. There's a slight difference between those two numbers. Basically, John had to take kind of what we were working from in determining what the questions were going to be and manipulate it and put it into the form that the state wanted. So there are some rounding differences and some slight differences in numbers. It's
So $500 overall.
Questions will be based on John's numbers, not the PEC letters. So take a look at all that information, and we'll see you back here next Tuesday night. And if you have any questions in the meantime, we're certainly happy to answer your questions. Kathy.
So I just want to make sure I am understanding, and along with everybody that's seated here and watching. So on a house assessed, average home assessed at $223,500, question 1 would be a little bit less than what we're paying now on our tax bill. Question 1 and 2 would be rounding up, $163 annually per year.
Mm-hmm.
In 1, 2, and 3, that $232.15 would be annually per year added to our bill.
Correct.
So I just did the math at 64 cents a day, just for my own curiosity. So thank you, because that's been a lot of work and it's been a long haul. So appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Is there any other questions? Well, you certainly all know where to find Mr. Middleton and I, so if you come up with any questions in the meantime, please let us know.
Thank you.
And again, just a thank you, John. Thank you, Lynn. Thank you, Mr. Bessica. The culmination of putting the presentation together involves a lot of people. Extra special thanks to Don Bart and the work that Don has done during the course of the last 2 years as well. He's been intimately involved in what's going on. If you remember back in the spring, Mr. Middleton, in the slide in one of the presentations, referred to about 3 dozen people in different areas of professionals on the outside that were working, leading us to where we are tonight. So an incredible amount of work. And an incredible step forward, for the school district. We have these very serious and formal discussions frequently. Thankfully, the vision within the community and with the board has been to push this forward because there's work that absolutely needs to be done within our schools. It's literally been 20 years, since the last significant amount of work has taken place. And if you remember, as we've gone through the last 2 years and had these discussions, I've gone through the documents with you from the late 1990s, or the 1980s, or the 1970s. Remember recently we were looking at the documents when the referendum was passed to build High School East, and the discussions that took place in the 1960s. Ostensibly are not dramatically different than the discussions we are having today, even though it's 50 years later. So look at this, digest it. To the folks in the community, please spend the time, go through the presentation. That's why it'll be on the website. We hope people ask questions. We hope people come out and take a look and have a discussion. As I said earlier, Mrs. Wilson, after we have the special board meeting next Tuesday and the board adopts the questions, We'll be publishing on the 3rd, a calendar of updated meetings, community meetings, things that we'll be holding, opportunities. Again, if there are community groups, if you want us to come out and talk about it, let us know. Contact Janet Cohen, contact Barbara Wilson, go through the quick question, ask us, and we'll come out and have discussion. I would much rather folks be as well informed as they possibly can about the work that's going to take place and what the impact actually is. Part of the discussions we've gone through the last year has been on the dollar amount. And for a little more than $210 million worth of work, as you said, Mrs. Judge, $232, it's less than $20 a month, for the average homeowner. There'll be a tax calculator, right? So as long as you know that it'll be on the website, again, starting next Wednesday. So as long as you know what your house is assessed at, you'll be able to pop that in, and see what that works, or where that is. Sure.
One other question. Is this going to be posted on the website? Oh, good, because I need to enlarge it. So thank you.
Lynn, I really appreciate this, the total cost breakdown per school, but you had said that there were some questions about repairing versus new construction. Do you have just an example of estimating if we scraped Carusi rebuilt? Are you able to estimate what that would cost? Because this breaks down the repair, but the average of what it might cost to scrape and rebuild like a middle school.
I would defer to Mr. Middleton on that. Because the interesting thing is we actually talked about that, and we would still have to abate the asbestos, right?
Yeah, the very strange things. You would have to abate the asbestos. So new construction for a middle school is going to go for somewhere around $300 a square foot. Carusi, Lynn, can you help me out with the square footage? I think it's 119,000 square feet, something like that. So not poised to do the math right now, but generally, if you look at the way the state funds new construction at $143 a square foot, we'd have to wrestle with them as to how much, if any, they would contribute towards the demolition of the existing building and towards the abatement of the existing building. So best case, you'd be looking at the school district paying $150 a square foot. So at 100,000 square foot, you're looking at $150 million. So that would be the local contribution, not including the state share. So it's really, the renovation is the best way to go as long as there's something salvageable in the bones of the building. We've done other projects at other schools where we've demolished the building down to the foundation and rebuild up from there, and the state can consider that a renovation if we're not changing the footprint of the building, and provided the foundations have sufficient capacity to support the new building that we're putting on top of it. Carusi's biggest obstacle is the asbestos, and once we get the asbestos out of the way, it'll open up a whole different framework for what we can do at Carusi. So it's not really worth raising the building down to the foundation and starting over.
I have a question about why the state, you say that the state will not support any improvement on the athletic facilities. What's the reason for that?
Because they focus on educational and academics. They don't provide funding for athletic improvements. It's just not what they do. It is, you're right. Correct. Yes. Lisa.
Just to make sure I'm reading this note on page 2 correctly. So the state funding comes with each question. So we'll only get the dollars that the state has said we could have for each question if each question passes. So it's not like we get the pool of state funding up front regardless of the questions passing.
No, so what happens is the funding will come when we go to make our payments, our bond payments. So we'll get the funding annually, and it'll be based on what our debt is. Right.
Any other questions? Okay. We'll move into our second public discussion period. You may now comment on any issue. When you come to the mic, please state your name and address. You'll have 3 minutes for your remarks.
Jennifer Nadio, 224 North Madison Avenue, 08002, President of Cherry Hill Special Ed PTA, proud member at Cherry Hill Zone PTA, who fully supports CHSEPTA as the advisory board for the district. Proud advocate, very thankful for the support of all who have reached out and supported CHSEPTA, and especially my current executive board and my family. Some of our CHSEPTA families are afraid of retaliation to their children's services and couldn't come tonight. No worries, we're here for you. New Jersey Administrative Code requires that each district have a special ed parent advisory group in place in the district to provide input on issues concerning students with disabilities. Cherry Hill Public Schools has long identified CHSEPTA as their group to meet this regulation. I have the letters confirming that here. Dr. Rushi would actually give CHSEPTA the first reading of a new policy to review so we could speak on it at BOE meetings. The current administration doesn't provide this. Over the past several years, we've asked at BOE meetings, through correspondence, face-to-face meetings for the district to allow us the input the regulations require. After being denied these requests, CHSEPTA filed a complaint with the NJDOE. The state sent a letter to both parties indicating there was initial merit and gave the district 10 calendar days to meet with CHSEPTA and resolve if the two parties could resolve the issue, the complaint would be closed. And in addition, the letter stated either party could request mediation to resolve the issue. But the state needed to be notified within the 10-day window. CHSEPTA contacted the state to request mediation. We never heard from the district to meet, and they informed the state they were not interested in mediation. The first communication we received on this from the district was an email on September 18th informing CHSEPTA they were forming a new special ed parent advisory board 15 minutes before informing the public. Having a district-driven CPAG removes the input of those families who actually attend IEP and 504 meetings, mediation, and due process meetings in Trenton. Input. All CHSEPTA parents asked for was for input in policies and committees, and here we are. I just received a request this morning to join Mrs. Wethington and Dr. Malash in a meeting with my executive board. Why couldn't we meet May of 2017 when we sent the letter to the BOE, Dr. Malash and the state? Why couldn't we send the letter to the why couldn't we meet when we brought this up for the last 3 years at BOE meetings? Why couldn't we meet after CHSEPTA filed the complaint and then when the state sent the letter? Why couldn't we have met when CHSEPTA asked for mediation? Now the parents of students with special needs are seen as publicly marginalized, and they have decided to eliminate this function of the existing CHSEPTA group, and now they want to meet with us. CHSEPTA should have a seat on the CPAG. CHSEPTA is my CPAG.
Good evening. My name is Kim Friedel. I reside at 9 Gately Court in Cherry Hill. I want to start by saying wow, and not wow in a good way. I want to also say to everybody that I spent 3 years at the New Jersey Department of Education, and in my 3 years, I wrote a lot of code, and I spent a lot of time with the Attorney General's office. So Dr. Malash, in his earlier comments, identified the administrative code that he notes that says that a PTA cannot be a CPAG. That is not correct. The code says, each district board of education shall ensure that a special education parent advisory group is in place in the district to provide input to the district on issues concerning students with disabilities. The other thing that I have the ability to do is make phone calls. So I did make 2 phone calls to the Department of Education after this lovely email came from the district. And the question I asked was, does this regulation say that it has to be called a CPAG? The answer was no. It can be a council, a collaboration, a partnership, a PTA. The type of parent advisory group is not regulatory. The little document, the CPAG manual that Dr. Malash noted, was prepared by SPAN. In June of 2017, Dr. Malash sent us a letter in response to our issue a year ago. And he actually said in that letter, the statewide parent advocacy network documents are not regulatory. But here we are today, and they are now regulatory and statutory. It is not correct. So I thank you for this opportunity to talk. I thank you for putting this all out there. And I thank you for reconsidering this decision, because there is no reason that we cannot come together, make any adjustments, and continue to have CHSEPTA be the parent advisory group in this district.
Miriam Stern, 121 Ashford Road. Few comments on what has happened with CHSEPTA and CPAG. First of all, it's very confusing to me when we address the fair funding issue again and again and again with the administration and the board. We were told the parents now have to be the ones to take action, political action, and we did. We set up a meeting with Senator Beach. Through Senator Beach, we set up a meeting with the Commissioner of Education. Now, all of a sudden, the PTA parent group is not powerful enough, not important enough to actually be representative of the people that they're supposed to be representing, the special ed community. So I'm going to read you what my children said, all three of my children said for many years. As a member of the Stockton family, I am respectful of the rights of others and responsible for my actions. I have the courage to stand up for others and for what I believe in each and every day. I am asking Ed Wong, Jane Scarpolino, Lisa Seidel, Carol Matlack, Eric Goodwin, Barry Dickinson, Kathy Judge, Ruth Schultz, and Ken Tomlinson, who is not here. You are here to represent the community, the parents, and the children. Please represent the special ed community. Please challenge what is being told to the special ed community, that all of a sudden, after the special ed community group actually challenges the administration, they're just rendered completely powerless. Please stand up for character ed. If you don't do it, who's going to stand up for these families? And I'm going to tell you, if you don't have the challenge of having a special needs kid, just imagine your whole life, all the challenges you have on a daily basis: work, managing a household, maintaining a marriage, having your children be happy, well-adjusted, well-educated, do their homework, get a home-cooked dinner on the table, hopefully with healthy food in it. Imagine all that. Now have a child who has challenges, who has maybe trouble learning, maybe trouble walking, maybe mental health issues. Imagine what those challenges add to your daily life. Imagine that. And then get up the courage and the energy to advocate and make meetings at times when your children are probably struggling to deal with nighttime routines and bedtime and homework, but you come out to meetings anyway and you do that anyway. Imagine that. And then have your education partners, your school district, where your kids spend so much time during the day, take away your right to speak up for your children. When you have those experiences, you can't imagine how hard this is for these families, for our families. Please stand up for these families and challenge what is going on. It's not right, and I have to say, it really doesn't look good. It smells pretty bad to most of the community. So please, stand up for us.
Members of the Board of Education, Ms. Wethington, Dr. Malash, my name is Julie Lehrman. I live at 189 Pearlcroft Road. And to use the buzzwords, my sons are twice exceptional students in 9th and 11th grade at Cherry Hill High School West. I'm a former board member of CHSEPTA, and CHSEPTA does many things, and one of the most important is that CHSEPTA has been serving as the Special Ed Parent Advisory Group, or CPAG, for Cherry Hill for as long as my family has been a member of the Cherry Hill School District. And I was distressed by the recent announcement regarding the formation of a district-led CPAG separate from and without consultation with CHSEPTA. I disagree with the department's unilateral decision to remove CHSEPTA from the CPAG role. Now, I'll be a little bit different. I actually think that expanding the group advisory the district is a reasonable idea. An organization with representatives to the CHSEPTA board, a representative of families with students in out-of-district placements, and One representative from each school, a little bit more similar to Zone's PTA, would connect a larger number of parent stakeholders with the district. However, I feel very strongly that the CPAG needs to be a parent-driven and parent-led organization. The current request to provide a statement of interest via a web form with no indication of how representatives are going to be selected if multiple people express interest from the same school has the appearance of an administration-led attempt to install a group of parents to just rubber stamp predetermined outcomes. I therefore strongly request, number one, that the district enters into state-led mediation with the CHSEPTA board to resolve the existing complaint and return CHSEPTA to a place at the table. And number two, that if you get more than one person from a specific school expressing interest in participating in the CPAG in response to the form that has gone out to the public, that you put the people who express interest in contact with each other and let them, in consultation with their PTA and CHSEPTA, let them decide who will best represent their school and represent the children on the CPAG, and not let that be an administration decision of who gets to be on this committee or not. Thank you.
Eileen Doran, 47 Bryn Mawr Avenue. I am very concerned about the way that the situation of our existing recognized CPAG asking simply for their rightful place at the table has been handled. Time and again, their request to be included, to be able to speak for the 20% of the district that they represent, have been denied. Sometimes there has been a blatant refusal. Sometimes it has been more of a subtle, oops, did we forget to invite you again? Sometimes it's been creating hoops to jump through, like telling CHSEPTA they needed to have reps attend every committee meeting and Board of Ed meeting if they wanted to know what was coming up that impacted our kids. They would not be given policy info ahead to look at, or even a heads up regarding, hey, this meeting's really important. You want to have some reps there to understand and to give input. When a complaint was filed, the district chose not to meet or have mediation, but to respond in what I view as retaliation. Create a new CPAG to replace CHSEPTA, definitely limiting CHSEPTA's role, and perhaps selecting a group who would ask fewer questions, a group who would be less involved, a group who might be easier to control. Unfortunately, this strategy appears common in Cherry Hill. As an active community member, I regularly hear from teachers who are afraid to speak for our children. They are afraid to speak about children not receiving services. They have been directed not to talk about safety and security concerns. They've been directed not to speak about health issues and mold in our schools. They asked me to be anonymous because they fear retaliation by the administration. I hear from parents who are afraid to advocate for their children. They fear that standing for their child or speaking about issues in the district that come up, even attending committee meetings and Board of Ed meetings with CHSEPTA, that will lead to retaliation against their family at their next 504 IEP meeting. In my opinion, the fears of these groups are not unfounded, and the actions of the district towards CHSEPTA this week confirm that those fears are valid. I hear we are a district of character, but individuals and entities of character do not rule by fear, intimidation, and retaliation. They rule with meaningful collaboration, respect, and communication. They do not shy away from questions, and they ask even, to be held accountable. Dr. Meloche is fond of saying, our children are watching. They are. And what mine told me they saw from this administration last week was bullying of a group who represents 2,300 children. 2,300 children like themselves, because I have 4 special needs children in my home. Dr. Meloche and Board of Ed members, it is not too late to change this. What will my children see next week? It is my hope that they will see people act with honest collaboration, transparency, and integrity. Thank you.
Rick Short, 1002 Chilton Parkway. Tonight is officially the second worst night that I've ever been to a board meeting. The worst night ever was February 27th, 2018. And you would have thought from that meeting that the board would have learned that security is number one. But let's not forget, tonight is the second worst night ever. I see parents angry at the board. I see administration not listening to parents. It's nothing like when I started in October 11th, 2016, and I came up here time and time again. And then I see Jen Nadio, August 5th, on camera, practically begging. At least I didn't beg, but it saddened me. It hurts me. I meet with the administration August 23rd, 2017. I report to them that honestly I did a survey that 95% of the community with a 7 to 8% margin of error wants a review of protocol. What happens? Nothing. You ignore. We move into January. I hear of capital reserves. I hear we have millions I never knew about. I present to you in early January that we should use that millions towards security. And I stood here February 13th, 19 hours before Parkland. I spoke and I said I had experts, and you continue to ignore it. And then the worst night came ever was February 27th. So, from your heart, I really hope you fix this problem, because it's like a plague, just like your security plague. You have to be kidding me with this bond that you presented this tonight. You're telling me that Berkeley is the best secure school in America. It is a joke. You're missing the 3M films. You don't have any panic alarms. And recently the governor just recommended that they use panic alarms. He actually wanted to put $1 billion bond through, but it only ended up being $500 million. You're missing lobby guards. You're missing automatic locking doors. You could add fly scents to reduce vaping. You also don't have any marked classrooms. You don't have cardboard covers like Washington Township. You're missing playground fence around playground equipment. You're also missing perimeter fences. And you're also missing main power sources. And most of all, you're missing bullards around pickup areas. So I hope you listen to the people that just spoke before me, because you didn't listen to me, and you better listen to them.
Good evening. David Rossi, 102 Roanoke Road. Show of hands, how many people are here to support Giuseppe? It's a fair amount.
Mr. Rossi, address the board, please.
Okay. I have listened to the community members here tonight, and it is clear they have some concerns. Concerns about accountability. This district was held accountable by Giuseppe and members of the special needs community. What was the response from district leadership? The response appears to be retaliatory in nature. This should be concerning to everyone in the community. Concerns about communication and collaboration. It's obvious there is a lack of communication and a lack of open dialogue between the district and Giuseppe. The district turned down mediation, which was offered by the state as a remedy. Mediation, which was precipitated because of the complaint submitted to the state by Giuseppe, not by being asked by the state to review and take a look at your current policy. Concerns about transparency. Instead of leadership engaging in community and Giuseppe in attempts to resolve the issue, there were only actions which appear to be an attempt to cut Giuseppe off or out of the picture for whatever reason. Sadly, this is not the first time I have witnessed this type of tactic from leadership. At the April 24th, 2018 BOE meeting, I stood up here and I requested leadership to please include the special needs community and Giuseppe in crafting protocol as it pertains to armed police officers in the schools and our special needs students. Giuseppe requested a meeting with the district asking to meet with them regarding considerations and concerns special education families had about armed police and security issues in general, and the response was that the district didn't think it was needed. It was only when Giuseppe reached out to the chief of police, whose response was, "We'd be happy to meet them," that the district agreed to have a meeting. There has been much collaboration with the Cherry Hill Police Department since then. Not much follow-up, however, in collaboration with the district leadership. At the February 27th BOE meeting, There were upwards of 500 people in the room, and you missed an opportunity to reach out to connect with those students, parents, and members of the community. Instead, we watched students pour out their emotions in a packed room. Some were angry, some were crying, and some were fearful, but nothing from leadership. Nothing but chastising those who spoke out of turn and became frustrated with the absence of dialogue or even the simple respect of acknowledging their words. Those students were recounting the actions of Dr. Perry during the walkout and how they were mistreated. And instead of breaking protocol, there was no response. Simply put, you cannot talk about empowering students with a voice and ignoring what they say. At the May 6th BOE meeting, Dr. Meloche stated, and I quote,
Rossi?
"Your words
Mr.
matter
Rossi?
together, our words matter."
I'm gonna have to stop you there. Thank you.
Yoni Yaris, 422 Cherry Hill Boulevard, Cherry Hill East, class of 2006. Quick shout out to Dr. Cafagna. I was one of his first students in the district and excited that my son, no, to make you feel old. Sorry. Concern about next week's meeting. I've listened to Dr. Meloche about this. This meeting should not start at 7 o'clock. It is the end of all the major Jewish holidays. I came an hour late because the second to last set was wrapping up tonight. Do not have this meeting start at 7. Move it to Wednesday. I know there's potential regulation issues with the state of how late you can start for Mrs. Matlock when we were talking at the last meeting. I recognize the state can be a real pain when it comes to these items, so please move the meeting. This is it's $254 a year in tax money, and everyone should have the opportunity to show up. I know this meeting will not go as long as this meeting tonight because it's going to be short. It's a vote yes or no and be done. Go home. I am very much in support of this bond. My daughter is at Berkeley. My wife has told me she's incredibly impressed. We went from going to the private schools in Beechwood, Ohio. The security is 100 times better at Berkeley than what they were dealing with there. It is a significant system. And on top of that, we are doing a carpool to have to bring both my daughter's number and their person we're carpooling number. That is excellent security. You know whose children are coming from where, having to scan the ID. For someone like me who I've walked in the Cherry Hill East, someone who's known across the district, I have to have them getting carded. For all they know, something else could have happened in my past. That yes, we respect people. I mean, look at Bill Cosby today. We all thought he was respectable, and unfortunately, totally not. And things like that could happen. I think it's a significant step in the right direction. I agree these buildings do have significant structures that could still be improved. It makes no sense to knock down and take over 100 years to rebuild every school in this district. We're just too massive. The state could do more, but I agree. It's unfortunate. 1970s came with asbestos. Now we know. So I do hope that we will support this bond because the option of not supporting it scares me greatly. I've seen the lack of improvements. I've been at East. I have no history. Just ask people back from 1999 trying to go down in the B-wing third floor area. It was sinking into the ground because it was done on the cheap, because the bond failed the first time. Don't let this bond fail the second. Again, because it gets bad. We go cheap and things aren't good for the students. I've got another 30 plus years at least of being a parent in this district. My parents started in 1982. I can go back. It's been a while. So thank you very much for all you guys do, and I really do hope we can get this bond going. And one last, Dr. Meloche knows this is one of my favorite things to bring up. There was the Cherry Hill East alumni featured on the Costco magazine for the September issue. We need to do a better job featuring that. We've got some incredible alumni doing great work. We've got to do better, bring them in, sell what we've done. We've created incredible products. We need to do a better job of selling that product. Thank you.
My name is Jennifer Brumbaugh. I live at 1758 T Rose Lane. I wasn't planning on speaking tonight, but I have watched the Chisepta parents over the last 8 months and gotten to know them and watched their patient persistence trying to be acknowledged and heard and included as is required by the state. I think a lot of the public doesn't realize how many students Chisepta represents and advocates for. What I deal with on a daily basis is so tiny compared to the challenges that many of these special ed parents are dealing with. My 12-year-old daughter has a condition called Ehlers-Danlos, which is what the Volley for Support is raising money for this year. She was diagnosed about 5 years ago. Luckily, it's not very severe, but the Cherry Hill School District was very proactive in setting her up with a 504 plan. And I touted praises, saying how responsive. The counselor contacted me. Didn't even have time to call the school. I sent in the paperwork, they contacted me, and within a month, 504 was drawn up, bam, done. Fantastic. But over the last 8 months, I have heard stories of parents having to fight tooth and nail for accommodations that are legally required. I know, I've learned, I've done my research, that CHSEPTA has been representing these students and these families for 20-some years. The timing of this new CPAG, you have to question that as board members on our behalf. The timing is way too much of a coincidence, happening immediately after they're not standing for not being included anymore. It's unacceptable, absolutely unacceptable. And I challenge you, in addition to Miriam Stern, every single one of you, I expect you to be asking very difficult questions of this administration. I want to know also, and I invite you to reach out to me privately, I want to know what you knew of this before the letter went out to every parent in the district. I want to know if the board members were involved in plotting this response. Thank you very much.
Hi, Laurie Neary, 301 Bell Arbor Drive. I'm speaking tonight not as a board member of CHSEPTA, nothing else than a parent. I'm shocked and I'm pleased at the turnout of the community in response to what has transpired. Tonight is about so much more than CHSEPTA. It is about a pattern of behavior. It's about a climate crisis we have within our district. You see, we have a leadership problem. Real leadership inspires others to be the best versions of themselves possible. True leadership brings forth creativity and independence of thought. When a problem arises or mistakes are made, leadership does not fear this. They embrace it, acknowledge it, and seize the moment to transcend. They see an error in course and they pivot. They don't shut it down. Others follow, not out of fear, but shared vision and desire for something better. It is the actions of real leadership, not words, that drive and inspire change in this world. Fear, intimidation, and control do not last, can never be maintained, and history has taught us this. I ask all of you to truly assess our path, correct the course. For the first step in correcting a problem is acknowledging you have one, and we have a problem. We have parents who are standing here tonight speaking, although they fear retaliation for themselves and their children. But I have taught my children on a daily basis, if you have a voice, you must use it for those who cannot speak for themselves. And there is a large population out of that 2,300 students that cannot speak for themselves. And we are here to do so. Please, I implore you, take a look at this and really assess. We have a problem. Thank you.
Ann Einhorn, 1017 Edgemore Road. We have a lot of problems in this district, but what really upsets me, and I know the parents behind me are upset, is using the words plotting, fear, and intimidation. We're going to hurt a child because we've formed a new committee. I can't handle that. You as a board stand for all of our kids, win or lose, good or bad. It's a big district. There are a lot of problems. There are a lot of kids. Fortunately for you, you had Cherry Hill SEPTA 30 some odd years ago. I didn't have that. I had to find my own 504, I had to find my own counseling, and I had to find my own instructors and remedial people to help one of my children. So I was intimately involved with Cherry Hill SEPTA many years ago as a board member. I do not know what precipitated it. Part of me said since I don't know both sides of the story and I know emotions are running high, is that I thought this is what Cherry Hill SEPTA wanted. They wanted to state to make a recommendation. You know, I don't know anything about the remediation. I'm not part of that process. I'm not intimately informed about the status of the patients. So forgive me for that, okay? But it doesn't mean that people don't care. I actually, forgive me, like the idea of including 504 and district out of placement. There's a very vocal community member many years ago who I shut down, believe it or not, at the mic, because he was so angry about his child, and his child was an out of district placement. So I would welcome whatever collaborative efforts might help each side go forward, because it's about the kids. It's not about me, it's not about the parents, it's about the children of the future. So having been on that, I hope that things can get better. I also know that there are times that you are bound by considerations and personnel and perhaps things from the state that you can't discuss publicly yet. So I appreciate that as well. I don't think sometimes people understand the limitations that the district administrators have, particularly when the state of education gets involved. I would like to speak about the bond. I will be supporting the bond. We've known that from the beginning. Members of the audience have known that from the beginning. I refuse to see the walls fall down. I ride by Haddonfield Memorial High School every day, and that wall is being rebuilt because it's old, okay? There's no question that we have the money for brand new schools. And where would you start? Can you imagine the community dialogue? My school's first, okay? Sure, my school's first. It was the oldest first one built in the district. I'm going to go forward. I'm going to support you. We need the work done. I'm not going to be here for 20 years, but I certainly supported the last one wholeheartedly. It is about the kids, about the staff members, and about the community, and also about our real estate values. Thank you.
Anybody else? No. Well, thank you all for coming out. Thank you for your feedback. We certainly appreciate it. May I have a motion to adjourn? Ms. Matlack, Mr. Goodwin. Good night, everybody.